Hey, Mike Healy here, and I got another episode for you of the MLM Mastermind Podcast. Obviously, I throw this up on my YouTube channel, Facebook, and everywhere else I can, my website, and so on. But today's topic is going to be a little different. It's not just necessarily how-tos. It's not system stuff like that, but I want to kind of peel an onion back a little bit for you. Something that I just recently realized through listening to a professor's conference that I found online. This guy did a talk in like 1990 on teaching, learning, things like that, and it really opened my eyes. And sometimes you don't realize what makes you successful or why people fail and so on. So kind of the topic of this is, if you don't know this one thing, you're really never going to have success in networking. Like this, there's literally this one important factor of how you get to the point of success. And I think that if you actually analyzed and began to interview and talk to some of the biggest and best networkers in the world, people that you would know, if you actually really began to peel the onion back, you're going to see that they have this one thing in common. Okay, so let me go ahead and talk to you about this. So here I am. I'm 27 years old. I'm in the bar business. I was burned out to say the least. I've been doing it for almost 10 years. Alcoholic, just in trouble all the time. Went to jail a few times for disorderly conduct. So I needed a career change, right? And somebody introduced me to networking. They actually invited me to a hotel meeting. I actually thought it was a job interview. But I was so bored. It was like the worst, most boring presentation. This guy that used to be a former farmer. Okay, nothing wrong. I mean, farmers are great. I'm from country myself, so I have all the respect in the world for farmers. But to me, it was like I saw this guy making like $3,000 or $3,500 a month, and I was like, man, that guy's just a farmer. Meaning like he didn't have what I was perceived from my days of being raised in the school atmosphere, that you had to have a degree, you had to have a good job to make any kind of money. Well, here was this guy that didn't go to college, was a farmer, but now he got into this network marketing business, and here he was making a nice big residual income, which continued to grow. Well, I was then introduced, and that basically tripped my trigger and got my attention. Well, then I ended up joining that company. I got introduced to some people. And then what happened was I was starting to meet more and more people in this company, because it was established. It was like 9 years old. And it was, people were making some obscene amounts of money. I'm talking, 10, 20, 50, 100,000, $500,000, literally $500,000 a month in this company, which I couldn't even comprehend. And so I became very inquisitive, because I found something that appeared to be my way out of what I didn't like. So there was the motivation. Okay, so let's just kind of leave that in the back of your head, the motivation. I had found my why, what was going to make my why that made me cry. I found some motivation to get out of what I was doing. But then what I began to do was I went to like every presentation I could. I went every single week to all the presentations that were at the hotel, because that's what you had to do back then. There was no internet. It was all flip charts. There wasn't any PowerPoints. There wasn't any, PowerPoint didn't even exist at that point. It was paper flip charts. And I would go and I would watch, but then nothing was really happening. Well, then I just became more and more inquisitive, because my motivation, I had my why, I had my motivation, so that was continually pushing me. And I finally started asking some of these guys what they were doing to be successful. Well, then the next thing you know is they were saying they would do X, Y, Z to invite people. Here's what I'm going to, here's kind of the peel the onion to get to my point of why I'm doing this talk, is there is a significant difference between being taught and learning something. There's a significant difference between being taught and learning something. You see, in school, and both my parents were school teachers, so I'm not coming out bad about school or anything like that, but to me, school is primarily a massive waste of time the way they currently do it. Because most of it is telling someone something, but then the kid is not necessarily learning it. What they are doing is trying to figure out what the teacher wants them to say based on what they were told, that gets them the correct answer and the right grade. It does not in any way mean they learned it. So get this. So the best and most effective way to learn something is by hands-on doing it. Okay? So what happens, or what I've seen over the years that I've been in networking, it's not that the trainings aren't available. It's not that people can't learn. It's not that there isn't thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hundreds of thousands of people that are 6 and 7 figure earners currently in the network marketing space that can teach you all of the things. What changed for me, that got me to go from Billy Bob Broken Poor to actually having success, is when I decided that I no longer wanted to just be taught. I wanted to get in the trenches and learn it. And in a lot of cases, one of the best ways, because when you have to learn something, if you're motivated, you will work through the issues to find out what truly does work based on maybe the small things that you were taught. So it's something you really have to dig into. But what happened with me was I had started to learn and meet some people that I wanted to be like. And I was like, man, if I could be like that guy, then maybe I would have that guy's type of success. So what I did is I began to study him, and then I would almost call it modeling / copying / playing pretend. I would act, walk, talk, do the presentations exactly like them. And even when I would go to trainings, I would literally sit on the edge of my seat, taking as many notes as I can, asking myself, what are they doing? How are they doing it? And I was almost projecting myself in their shoes, looking back at me. And I was like, okay, that person in front of the room is making all the money. I mean, that's been something that's been, kind of jokingly talked about in network marketing circles forever, is he who controls the dry erase marker in front of the room makes all the money, right? It's because that person has figured out how to be taught something and then officially learn it and apply it. You see, most people, because this is it, is your future is totally going to depend on your capacity to learn something and your motivation to do it. Your future depends on your capacity to learn and your motivation to do it. And so one of the best ways to learn is to eventually teach it. So so that's on a personal level. Okay. So what you have to do is you have to ask the people that are making money, right? Take advice from the ones that are working it, figure out what they, if they say, hey, I did this, then immediately the only way you are going to learn it is to do it. That is where in 99% of the time of failure in network marketing, it's because the person was taught it, but they never learned it. And they didn't learn it because they didn't do it. Okay, it shouldn't be rocket science, and this should be as basic as it gets, but sometimes you have to just have that wake-up call. I mean, I can tell you and I can show you how to tie your shoes, right? So I tie my shoes and you watch me do it. But until you grab the strings on your feet and begin to do it, you're not going to be efficient. You are not going to be competent. And if you continue to do it, like every one of you, if you're hearing my voice and you're watching this, you can tie your shoes with your eyes closed now, because you are unconsciously competent, because you saw it, you are motivated to not walk around and step on your shoestrings, and because you are motivated, you learned it. You took the time to do it. The other thing too, so from a personal standpoint, that's how you get good. That's how you start to recruit. Let's go one step further. Some of the best people that build the biggest organizations are not just about them being the talking head all the time. And I'm guilty of this, that I have to be very careful of this, because it happens all the time, because I like to hear myself talk. Everybody likes to, what's your favorite thing to talk about is yourself. But what if you want to grow a group, what you do, or what you should do to get duplication, is on like your live training calls, your Zooms, things like that, where you got your team together, you should teach somebody something And then even if it's just spur of the moment or it's pre-planned and pre-set up, you have your new person teach something. Because if they can teach something, that's when learning happens. They start learning it to the point that they become competent in that activity and so on. Does that make sense? Learning is easier done through teaching, but then you learn because you are hands-on in the trenches going through the process. Everything in life that is achieved is not through being taught. It is by learning, and there is a massive difference. Your future depends on your capacity to learn and the motivation to do it. And so what you have to do is you have to say, I am willing to be taught XYZ to get the success, to learn this, to be taught that, but I am going to immediately go for it, try it, so that I learn it, it becomes part of me, and now I will be successful. And then the next level of that, especially in networking for duplication, is you're going to teach it, but you're then going to get that person to properly learn it, because you're going to put the carrot in front of them, their goal in front of them, as to why it's so critical they learn it. And then guess what? They should eventually do. So if you model that behavior to the point that it becomes part of your community, part of your culture, you're going to see that your group, you not only grow, you not only start reaping rewards, but your team does. And when your team does, that's when true success happens, because networking should, otherwise you're doing just pure out affiliate marketing. To grow a network marketing business, it's all about, getting that leverage, getting that multi-level type thing going. So I didn't want to take forever on this one, but I think it's a good bullet point. I think it's important to understand that most people can and are being taught, but they are not learning. And until you identify what it takes to learn, which is hands-on application and getting your feet wet and getting your knees dirty and getting in the dirt and getting going, you're never going to get that brilliant breakthrough that you've been looking for success. That's why whenever I learn something new, or when I mean learn, whenever I see something new that makes sense to me, that it's something I can apply, I immediately try to do it. If it's an online strategy, if it's a Facebook new way of posting or doing something, it doesn't matter. I immediately try to learn it by doing it. And then what I've done is I will tweak what I just did to make sure that I get it down, and then I become competent in it. And by doing that and keeping that as your MO, your method of operation, it will compound to the point where you start to just become unconsciously competent in many, many things that most people just have no clue about. And that's how you get, because skills pay the bills, but when you start to master your craft, and you get that 10,000 hour kind of outlier situation going on, that's where the wealth is. So hopefully you got something out of this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Head on over to MikeHealyTraining.com. Got a lot of free stuff over there as well. A lot of other podcast tips, strategies, free stuff, trainings, things like that. So thanks again, and I'll see you on the other stuff. Thanks.